obviously, you know, I used to play at the Mem, it's our spiritual home. It's a great shame that we'll be leaving, but we have no say in it. When we lost ownership back in the 90s, we lost control of sort of our destiny at that point. So it is a shame, but we have no choice, we have to move. The other thing is, a couple of weeks ago, Bristol City, or Bristol Sport really, announced alternative plans of redeveloping Ashton Gate as an alternative to building Ashton Vale. So we now know that there will be a redeveloped or a new stadium available for us in the fairly short time, and we committed to move into there as a Groundshare with Bristol City as soon as that's possible. In my view, and the view of sort of the board, that Groundshare is very logic and simple. We are part of Bristol Sport now, with the same owner, Steve Lansdown, as a football club, rugby club, and there will be other sports as well. There's no doubt about that going forward. This is sort of tip of the iceberg, I think. At Ashton Vale, or more likely to be honest, Ashton Gate, we will be partners, and we won't just be tenants. Okay, we've got a bit of catching up to do. Bristol City have been there 100 years. We will be moving in new, but that's not the way that Steve sees this. He sees it as a partnership, and it's one that we've got to make work. So I'd quite like to just turn it over for questions. I want to try to keep the questions pretty much on the stadium and the Groundshare and things, rather than spreading on to any other topics. Obviously it's been a very busy week at the club this week. It's a massive step forward for us, but I'd rather keep the questions tonight on stadium and things. So, who's going to be first? No.
Can you clarify exactly what the ownership structure is? So, Bristol Sporting and then Ashton Gate separate and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I'm very keen to do that actually, because it's a sort of point that's come up I think 1 or 2 times over the last couple of weeks. The ownership is actually, Bristol Sport is a sort of umbrella company that's owned by Steve Lansdown. Bristol Rugby is owned by Steve Lansdown. Ashton Gate Holdings Limited, which owns the ground, is owned by Steve, and Bristol City is majority owned by Steve. So they're all his companies. The ground isn't actually owned by the football club, it's owned by Ashton Gate Holdings. Is that clearish?
Crystal.
Okay. Number 2.
Is the club going to honour the 2028 tickets when the move takes place?
Absolutely. I had an email from somebody via Tom today, and I replied to that, and the reply was that we're absolutely going to honour it. It's a 20-year season ticket, that's the way it was sold, and the way I see it working is that those 2028 members will have first shot at the selection of seats when we know where we're moving. So the season ticket will be in place, and the first people called to go and select their seats will be the 2028 members.
When the move actually happens, is it something that Bristol Sport will look at as a joint ticket? Watch waves for?
I think there's all sorts of options, Ian, actually. I think there's... Sorry? I think there's full joint tickets, which some people may want. There's the idea of if you're a Bristol Rugby season ticket holder, maybe you get a, 50% discount on a City ticket. And don't forget that there will be other sports. It won't only be football and rugby. There will be other things that occur in Bristol that will come under the umbrella of Bristol Sport. And the idea is to promote the whole thing. So yes, the idea of sort of joint ticketing is very, very clear.
Terracing is something which is very close to the heart of a lot of us. How keen are the football element also on terracing, or is it just something that the rugby side is interested in?
No, it's interesting because I think the sort of view of a lot of the football clubs has changed over the last few years, and there's something that's called safe standing, which is being promoted by a number of the clubs at various levels in the British League, whereby you bit tricky to explain. You have seats, but they're only the bottom of seats. You don't have backs to them, and you can have them down for football, or if you need seating, but they lock up vertical if you want standing area. So you then have standing areas between these rows of locked up seats. So it's as good as you're going to get, or as close as you're going to get to being a terrace. And Bristol City are very keen on putting that in certain areas of the ground, even if the law hasn't been changed by the time that they have to make that decision. So that's something they're really looking at, and that's clearly one of the things we'd be very, very keen on trying to get into the stadium.
Would that still be allocated, sort of standing area?
No,
or
no.
You can bring friends along and...
Yeah, that certainly if it's a sort of standing area, it'd be unallocated. We will also look, with the capacity we have at somewhere like Ashton Gate, at having unreserved seating areas, so that you don't have to always sit next to a guy you don't like or whatever. you can just go down there and go and sit with you can go and sit with whoever you want to. So we're actually, I think that's the way forward for certain parts of the ground. There would be parts that are reserved seating, normal, season ticket, walk tickets, but other areas just unreserved.
Is that only likely to be behind the goal area, or is there likely to be some?
What's that? The standing. What they're talking about is some on the side and some behind the goal, doing maybe a sort of, halfway round type thing. There is going to be some restriction, because obviously on the halfway line of prime seats, they're probably not going to want them standing there. But there will be some side and end sort of discussions that go on at the moment.
Steve, you said that obviously we signed up for the Memorial Ground for another season, so quite possibly we'll be moving after that one. But it's going to take 2 to 3 years to redevelop Ashton Gate if that's what we're playing. What's going to happen while the ground's being redeveloped? Will we still play there, or is there going to be another venue public?
There will definitely never ever be another new one.
Thank God for that.
Certainly not as long as I'm involved. I think in reality the way that they're planning to redevelop Ashton Gate, and as you've seen in the paper, is just doing it stand by stand. So and each stand is about a 60-week build, so you can do it from 1st of June through to the start of the following season. So you would only be missing one stand each season. Now that's disruptive, but it means you've still got a lot of capacity to deal with. I think the minimum it goes down to is something like 15,000 or 16,000. So you may have to move, you may want to sit one side, and then that gets knocked down and rebuilt and goes somewhere else. But we will always have enough capacity to play there all the way through that redevelopment.
There's been talk on the website about a last name of the Memorial Stadium. Is there any plans for that?
Yeah,
To be a rugby game.
it's something that I think a lot of people are very keen on, and I think it's something we'll really have a look at. I think it depends in reality when we move and when the stadium closes, but I think some sort of memorial game would be something that we definitely try to put together. And whether that's Bristol playing or whether it's an invitation game or whatever, in some ways doesn't really matter. It's the fact that it would be a rugby game to finish things out. I've got no authority from the Rovers on that or anything, but it would be a nice way to finish it. And it very much, that's the sort of thing we want views on to build into what we're trying to do.
You mentioned earlier on about the Memorial Gates.
Yeah.
Is there serious looking into moving it? Because a lot of us think what's the point of having a car park in the Sainsbury's superstore? Sure, it'd be better to move it to a sports ground, what we were paying for in the first place.
Yeah, our former Players Society have sort of been working on that. I don't know totally, but I think there's quite a lot of issues in moving listed items like that.
I think you won't leave the gates there, really.
Sorry?
I think you won't leave the gates there.
Well, what the plan is at the moment is that they will be remaining in place, and Sainsbury's are going to make a memorial garden around them, so that they won't be an entrance to Sainsbury's. They will actually be the feature of a memorial garden where we will go on holding the sort of memorial services and things in the future. So the former players have been involved in that, and they believe that's the best option going forward.
Because it is memorial gates, isn't it? Locked through the wall, isn't it?
Yeah, and having seen the sort of sketches of it, it looks as if it would be nicely done. It's something Sainsbury's is certainly taking very seriously as being something that they're committed to do. Another one? Far away.
The pitch, what will be done about the pitch dually is between football and rugby?
Okay.
Because they always make a fuss.
They do make a fuss.
Which we don't.
Does it make any difference?
I think the football mess our pitches up personally, but
It's a rugby pitch.
what will be done, what's been committed is that before we move there, they will put in what's called a deso pitch, and what a deso pitch actually is a sort of reinforced grass pitch. And what they do is every 2 centimetres across the pitch in each direction, they put in a fibre which goes down something like 20 centimetres into the earth, and the top 2 centimetres look like grass. And so the length of the pitch is, and the grass or artificial will be 2 centimetres. And then the roots of the ordinary grass entwine around these fibres, which are much deeper than normal roots, and it becomes much stronger. So if you put in a fibre every 2 centimetres over a full rugby pitch, that's 20 million fibres. So that's what they're going to do, and that gives the pitch something like 4 times as much strength as a normal pitch, and enables you to play football, rugby, 2 games day after each other without a problem. A lot of the top pitches in this country and around Europe are now deso pitches. It's the most expensive way to do it, but it's a grass pitch effectively, so you don't end up with either a mud heap or a plastic.
Does it still freeze?
No, because you have underfloor heating, so, and you have the drainage, you have the whole works. Yeah. And we wouldn't be able to go without that being done. That's been a sort of condition of going down there.
What's it like for the players?
They wouldn't know any.
I'm on about tackling and falling.
You wouldn't know any different. It just looks and feels like a grass pitch.
I believe it's the same pitch you got at Swansea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ospreys playing.
Yeah, and Anfield, and you name most of the big grounds around Europe, around the
They got
world.
that down there now, haven't they? Ashton Gate.
Sorry?
They got that.
No, no. So that's something that will have to be done. The plan is at the moment to do it the summer after next, because you can only really do it in the summer. So you strip the pitch off, put in all the fibres, seed it, and let it grow.
How much would that cost, John?
I think it's about $750,000. Whereas an artificial pitch like the one at Saracens, which they put in, is about 400,000. So it's a bit the expensive way of doing it, but it gives you a proper grass pitch that you can use almost any distance. Come down the end.
Appreciate we're a couple of years away or what. You mentioned multi-purpose stadium. Any thoughts given to match days? Or still retaining the sort of traditional Sunday?
I think that's something we'd like some feedback on as well, because it seems to me it splits pretty much, down the middle as to whether we play Friday, Sunday. I think the other thing we need to look at again is playing Saturdays going forward, or whether we want to play everything on one day, all Fridays or all Sundays or whatever. It's quite hard to get a feel as to which is favourite. It seems to me different groups of people like different things. So there's no decision's been made on that at all, because we'll be in the same position as, football will play Saturdays basically. So we will have Fridays or Sundays when they're at home, or all 3 when they're away. So say no decisions, but something we need to go on looking at.
Do you foresee price rises
No.
in season tickets?
No. No reason to at all.
General.
Yeah, But no, because we'll be playing the same number of games. I think, no, definitely not. Not because of the move.
How does that affect if we don't get standing? Those of us who use the terracing have quite a reasonably lower price ticket.
I think
If we then have to move to seating, if we don't want to do it, there is going to be some considerable rise here, or not?
no, I don't think so. I think if we don't have any standing, we'll have to look at our supporters and say this was the level they were paying to stand. We will have to have areas where they can do that for the same.
Would you be prepared to publish those stands? Because I'm aware of people that I stand with who are not keen on the city ground.
Sure.
Anyway, absolutely not keen to sit.
Yeah.
And are saying they may not go down it. And that would, I don't know how much you've written that into your business plan, but how many people do you expect you might lose?
Well, to deal with those separately, I think we're very happy to sort of confirm that we will ensure that there's suitable pricing equivalent to what people are charged now for various areas in the ground. And as for the business plan, we haven't assumed everybody's going to pay any more. We're basing on the plan is to succeed on the field and increase the numbers, not to charge people a lot more to go to watch the games. We want more people there rather than.
Well, that suits us.
Hopefully it suits everybody. Yeah.
But there is, I think you need to know, I'm sure
Okay.
you do, that there is a significant proportion of of people who are anti.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who are not going to bloody go down there to the city, right? Finish.
Yeah, I understand that, and we will lose some people because they've been going to the man for 50 years or whatever, and they won't want to go somewhere else. But against that, I think we'll also pick people up who wouldn't go to the man for the reverse reason. But I think we've got to make it's going to be our home. We've got to make it feel like it. It's got to be a rugby stadium on rugby days, a football stadium on football days, and it's got to be affordable for people. I think within the stadium, fixed things like the seating, in all honesty, are probably going to be red. We can have a go at changing that, but whether we'll be successful. But beyond that, all the things like the outsides, the concourses and all, I think the idea is that they will be neutral and they will be lit. So they will be blue on rugby days, they'll be red on football days. And with sort of technology these days, that's really not difficult to do. So it's that sort of thing that we will work very hard to make sure it feels like our home. Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, but besides the colours, obviously it didn't make much difference to me, but
I do love the shirt.
But most important thing is that the Rovers ground since in most of our pictures. Is it possible on match day, so I've seen other clubs ready to rotate the pictures, so on a City day the pictures of City players, on a Rugby day they're around that way, rather than in the bin up to the Memorial Ground where they were. So it would be nice, would that be possible, just a rugby feel as you walk in the ground?
Absolutely. I think in all the bars there and various other areas, I think that rather than being rugby or football, we're going to try to make it sport.
Yeah.
So that it's Bristol Sport Bar. So I'd say at the moment it's football and rugby, but it will be other things as well. I don't know if you've been to the bar at Notts County. Under their stand they've developed a bar, and it's a sports bar. So there's football, there's rugby, there's all sorts of other things in there, and you feel like you're in a sports bar. And I think that's the sort of model we'll be looking at.
Is that something to think about, gentlemen, bar, the length of the like
Yeah, well, clearly the Dolman stand will get revamped, but that will be the main sort of supporter bar. But at the moment it's sort of predominantly red, but it will get changed into a sports thing. They're also looking at developing the pub that used to be the Wedlock, and that needs to become a sports pub, not a football pub. And the other things they're going to do is have a sports museum. So as you go into the ground, if you want to go in the museum, that's a sports museum. So it's not a football museum. So they obviously the football club is sort of bigger than us, stronger than us in some ways, but the people who are above that see it very much as an equal.
We like see our oldest boards, Matt?
Absolutely. All those sorts of things will be featured within the stadium, definitely.
What's your personal vision?
Personal vision?
This will be 5 years.
5 years. Ooh, still be going strong. I think my vision is in line with the board really, which is to be in the top 4 of the Premiership, playing probably at Ashton Gate with some big crowds. You know, there's 4 local derbies now, so I don't see why we shouldn't be getting good crowds to those and pushing on.
Well, you're including Worcester in that.
Well, I guess it's nearly a local derby. Yeah, Worcester, Gloucester. Well, it's only an hour, isn't it? But 3.5 then. Okay. But you know, those you instantly get more people in these places. So certainly the three really local ones. So that's mine. Yeah, that's mine.
I mean, this move for us is a really big move. But if you're a Bristol City supporter, it's a big thing for them too. Are they really going to welcome us if we change too many things?
I think if we just went in there and tried to change Ashton Gate as it is now, there would be big resistance, there's no doubt. But with it being redeveloped, that gives the chance to actually do it jointly and make it a sports stadium rather than a football ground. So I think you're right, it would be very difficult to make it feel anything other than Bristol City ground if they just left it as it is now.
Well, I mean, if you're a Bristol City supporter, I don't think I'd like our lot going down there.
I think they do good. These 2 guys here have a box of Bristol City.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, they're sort of in ideal position to tell you, really.
Well, you'd be surprised the amount of people who are quite happy with it.
I think as long as the pitch is sorted out, so that doesn't have any effect on the football.
The seats stay red.
Yeah, which I think we're nearly resigned to. But beyond that, I think there's an awful lot you can do to say make it a football stadium for football days and a rugby stadium for rugby days and a concert stadium for concert days.
Drinking and all that.
I think, well, there's also even on the drinking, there's a lot of moves from the football clubs to allow drinking on the terracing. They're trying to get some of the laws changed at the moment, so that will happen at some point. And so all the design needs to ensure that the outlets are suitably placed, of adequate size and everything else, which isn't the case at the moment and has clearly been one of the issues when we have played down there. But as the redevelopment is done, those things will be addressed.
How's it being financed?
Has it been financed? Basically, Mr. Lansdown's financing.
Change.
Sorry?
Spare change down in the back of the
You know, it's his part of his vision for Bristol sport. I guess it is. I don't. You know, they at the moment Bristol City are getting what 13,000, 14,000 down there, and people park reasonably okay, don't they? Parking's all right. It's not too bad. I think things like park and ride for big crowds, really big crowds, are definitely a yes. It's not something that's really, we've really addressed, to be honest, as yet, because say it works one way or another. The city, it works for football. So when we're getting 14 or 15,000, we'll sort of think about it then, I guess.